Hi, I'm Lisa Baumann, and I'm going to show you how to make a terrarium today. Just about any type of container can be used to build a plant terrarium, just as long as it is clear, plastic or glass, and what that's going to do is allow the light to come in for the plant area. Most terrariums are classified in one or two ways, either a closed system or an open system. Your closed system terrariums are best suited for moisture tolerant plants because they have a removable lid on the container, and the plants, once inside, they will build their own condensation and produce almost like a little mini rainforest. The open system terrarium, such as this one, which is considered a dish style, is best suited for dry tolerant plants like your cacti and your succulents and stuff like that, because it doesn't produce a lot of humidity. So obviously these are more arid type, they're more found in deserts and stuff like that. So once you decide on which type of terrarium you'd like to build, either a closed system moisture loving plant or a open system for dry tolerant plants, you can go ahead and select whatever type of container you would use for that type of environment. The next step is you're going to want to make sure, which I've already done this step, is to wash it with hot soapy water and make sure it's all clean and ready to go before you start the process. So our first step is you're going to build the drainage layer. Now the drainage layer, the first layer, you're going to want to use about 1 inch of gravel, and usually they say pea-sized gravel. There's all different colors and choices that you can choose from. I happen to choose this brown variety. So again, about 1 inch of gravel. So what we're going to do is we're going to gently put it in the container, and you can use a filter if you want, especially if you have a container maybe that has a narrow opening. This way you can get it in there a little bit better. So you're going to have to eyeball it up a little bit, because like this specific container has obviously the round edges. So it's going to be a little bit harder to see, but I'm kind of just gauging, poking my finger down there. I think we need a little bit more. And it's not going to be perfect, but just, you're going to want to eyeball it up. And what this is going to do is it's going to let the water that filters down through the other layers, maybe a little bit more, to sit on there, sit on that bottom. Keep it away from the plant so it doesn't have the roots of the plant get too watered down and rot them out. That's what would happen. So I would say that's about good for that layer. And what it does too, having a clear container, is it adds to the appeal, because you can see the brown layer from the outside. Your next layer is going to consist of ground charcoal, and we're going to want to use about 1/2 inch of that. This ground charcoal I actually found at the pet store around the fish or the aquarium section, and it was actually called carbon. So I guess it's used in filters of aquariums and stuff like that. But that's where I found that. So you're going to want to do 1/2 inch of the ground charcoal. And what this layer is going to do, the purpose that it serves, is it's going to absorb the odors. If there's any water that's sitting on the bottom, until it gets evaporated. So it's going to help with that. So again, about 1/2 inch, maybe a little bit more. Again, it's not going to be perfect. Okay. I think that's about enough charcoal. Put this back over here. Our third layer is going to be potting soil, sterilized potting soil specifically. And what I mean by that is, go ahead and buy yourself a fresh bag of like a moisture control potting soil. And because what that's going to do, once you open a bag of potting soil, typically microbes, bacteria already infiltrate the dirt. So you don't want to spread disease in your plants that you put in there. So it'll have a better chance of surviving, the plants will, if you use a fresh bag of potting soil. And we're going to want to use about 2 to 3 inches for that layer. And so be careful when you're putting this in, because what it tends to do is it's a very fluffy material, and it'll tend to cling to the sides of the terrarium, and it looks unsightly. So kind of just scoop it in there. Again, if you have another open container that perhaps has a smaller opening, you might need to use like a piece of paper and funnel the dirt in there so that it doesn't get all over the place. But seeing as this dish terrarium has a nice wide opening, I can just use my hands and shuffle the dirt around. So I think that's pretty good. We can always add and remove if we need to as we're going along too. What you're going to want to pay attention to as well is whatever depth of the container that you use, is you want to try to make sure it's not more than half of the total depth of the container. You know, it's not going to be perfect, but if you can try to do that, because you want to have room for your plants. Okay. What we're going to do next is I'm going to take my little chopstick or my hand, because I have an open thing here. Just going to make a little hole for my plant. Okay. The plants I chose, again, were drought-tolerant varieties, cacti, succulents, stuff like that. I did go ahead and I purchased these at Walmart, and they were fairly inexpensive. But if you wanted to, I did a little bit of research, you can go ahead and order them online too. And there's a variety of different styles to choose from, and budgets and stuff like that. So however you want to do it, if you can find them in your local area, or if you want to order them online, that's fine too. Now, what I went and did was, on this paper plate, I chose and I already arranged my plants according to how I want to put them in my container. And you always want to put the tallest plants in the back, your shortest plants in the front. Okay? And in choosing these plants too, specifically, I liked the variety of colors, shapes, and sizes, because what it's going to do is it's going to add to your terrarium the interest of it and make it more of a talking piece. So, first thing we're going to do, I'm going to start with my tall one in the back, my little variegated plant here. And this plant's name is Rainbow Elephant Bush. Nice little stocky variegated plant. So, what you're going to want to do is gently grab the plant and kind of ease it out of the container. Okay, I'm going to just set this container aside. And try to take a little bit of this dirt off of the plant. Very gently. The root system, making a little bit of mess here, so you're going to want a wide open space when you're playing with this stuff. But you don't want to take it too much, because some of these are all, they're not one root system. I can easily see that this is like one of those plants that are transferable, and I can just pick apart pieces. I can feel that. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking this little bit of extra dirt off of this plant and gently loosening the roots. And what this is going to do is just allow for better aeration and for the root system to regrow in our new environment. Okay. I'm going to put him right to the back so I can have room for my other plants. And what I'm noticing already is that I am going to need a little bit more soil, because this one is a little bit bigger than my other plants. And that's okay. You can always add soil. You're always going to want to make sure too that the plants you choose are more the dwarf or the miniature varieties, because the worst thing you can do is plant a terrarium and then the plants that you choose might outgrow, the terrarium quickly. So just be aware of that when you're choosing your plants. So what you're going to want to do is just press gently the plant in place as we're going. Our next plant, I chose him for his variegation and his shape. Very interesting. And this is called a Gaster Aloe Green Gold. Notice too that there's some leaves on here that are dead. You're going to make sure that you pick those off because we don't want to spread any diseases to our other plants. So we're going to just go ahead and take that off and give our plants the fresh start. Okay, I'm going to take him out too. This plant specifically has very large root system. Okay, and there's really no dirt around him already, so we're going to go ahead and just place him in. Just kind of tuck him down in there. I'm going to use a little bit more soil. Just push that right up against that. The root of that plant. Just shuffle it around. If you have to use your chopstick, kind of push it in place. Some of these cacti, when I were looking at them, had very sharp thorns, so I tended to stay away from those because I didn't want to be injured when I was creating the terrarium. But you can definitely choose, and if that's the case, you might be able to just, wear a pair of gloves or something like that, just to protect yourself. Okay, great. Moving on to our next plant here. Nice variety of colors. This one's called a golden sedum. So we're going to be gentle, take this one out. And again, loosen that soil up a little bit. Now again, you don't want to take all the dirt off, but you want to just take some of it. And just be careful. Loosen those roots up. Okay, this one, I'll do a little hole with my hand here. And then I'm going to place it right there. Get a little bit of extra dirt, potting soil. And I'm going to gently pat that around in there. This one's just coming apart just a little bit in the middle. But I like the way that looks. And you can always just play with it as you put it in there. Last but not least, we have a Echeveria Black Prince, and I like this plant because it had purple colors on the outside and then this green color in the center. I thought it was very interesting to look at. So, very gently, again, loosening those roots up. Okay. And I think what I want to do with this, and I'm just going to put it a little bit off center. Patting them down in there, nice and gentle. Keeping the dirt off those leaves there as the best I can. Okay. Another thing you could use is moss serves a couple different purposes. It's optional, but you don't have to use it, but I think it's nice for two main reasons. One, it adds more texture, contrast, interest to your terrarium, but it also serves another purpose, and it will serve to kind of damper the evaporation of water. I got these at the dollar store. It came with a bunch of different varieties, so you can purchase whatever. You can even use live moss if you would like to. This happens to be the dry stuff. But, you know, what you can do is just kind of put it in wherever. Play around with it. If you don't like it, you can always, you know, move it around. I'm just going to stick a little, you know, little piece here and there. Add a little interest. And some of this stuff does not want to come apart very easily, so I did grab myself a pair of scissors, and it's almost like hair. You just want to like cut it a little bit. You know, put a little bit here, a little bit there. I like the variety too, because again, it just adds so much interest and fun. You know, you just have fun with it. Put a little bit here and there. Maybe a little bit more. I kind of like this dark green stuff right here. And what's neat is because this is a round container is that you can see it from the sides of the container when you put it down there. So what I would like to do next for a fun little whimsical thing is I want to take a little bit of this extra gravel and build a little road of sorts. So you can just gently put it on there. Gently put it on your soil. It could even be a little creek, I guess, if you want it to. Whatever you want to call it. Just gently just put it down there. I kind of want to just have a wider base. And then I'm going to like filter it back a little bit. So it's almost like disappearing into my plants a little bit. And you can use your chopstick, whoops, use your chopstick too to move that around. So it's almost like a road or a bank of a river perhaps. Yeah, maybe a little bit more in the back. Another thing you could do too is if you had like little figurines or something like that, you know, like a little treasure chest you could put back there, or a little gnome figurine, or a little fairy, anything, you know, make a little bridge perhaps, anything to make it fun and interesting, you know, personalize it, because it just makes it fun. But one of the last things you're going to want to do is water. So a couple things you can do for watering. You can use a watering can, which that's what I have here. So I'm just going to go ahead, water my plant just a little bit. You don't want to over water. So water each one just a little bit. Another option you could use is a spray bottle with water, and you can just water the plant, water the soil. You might have to move the moss around a little bit like that, but that's another option. Now, in maintenance for your terrarium, typically what's going to happen is if disease is going to happen, it usually happens within the first 2 to 3 weeks. So if you notice that one of the plants is not doing well, they're dying, go ahead and take the plant out and replace it with a new one, because you don't want any diseases or anything like that to spread to the other plants. Closed system terrariums, you're going to want to water. You're really not going to have to water for the first 4 to 6 months, because what's going to happen is, because it's closed system, it has a lid on it, the plants inside the terrarium itself are going to produce condensation, and they're basically going to water themselves. But if you notice a couple different things, if you notice that the closed system terrarium does not have any condensation on the side, or that some of the leaves are wilting, go ahead and give it some water. In the open system terrariums, and to include the dry tolerant plants like this one, what you're going to want to do is just check the soil. If the soil feels dry, go ahead and give it some water. So there you have it. That's how you make a terrarium. So I am happy that you joined me today, and thank you for listening, and I hope I've inspired you to create your own terrarium. So thank you, and I'll see you next time.